Welcome to another episode of The Road Less Traveled. I'm your host, Evan Drisner, and we are, for the first time, going to be chatting with a not-for-profit, which is exciting because the idea of the show is to talk about the journey and how where they started and how that journey took them to where they are. So thank you so much for being my guest, Maureen.
You're welcome.
Good
Thanks for having me.
So we'll end up talking about the charity and the organization you're involved with. But why don't we start way back, 20 years ago, when life started?
Sure.
For none of us. But why don't you go back and talk a little bit about where you came from, how you grew up, kind of the environment you grew up in, because I think that adds a nice picture to how you journeyed life and ended up with Joyce Center.
Yes. Man, going back 20 years ago. Only. Okay, so I was born and raised in Uganda in a small village called Buremba. That was 1974, I believe.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we never really know our actual birthdays because we were not born in the hospital where they give you a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So everyone has a kind of a different dates in their mind, but we go by what our parents told us.
So you could literally say 29 forever.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's actually, yes, I can, but except my kids when they say,
of course.
I think
they keep getting older.
Yeah, so it was way back 1974 when I was born, and our family was very big. I'm like the second last, and we were 12 of us.
Oh, man.
We lost 3, so we are 9.
Yeah.
5 brothers and 4 sisters.
And like lost sick? Like they got sick? Or?
Some of them got sick, others, one of them I know drowned.
Was that normal? Like to
Well, there's no health care,
Okay.
so one of them I think, it's like kids going and playing around to swim in a lake.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to swim, so he couldn't make it.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then the other one, I think, had like measles or what.
Okay.
So it was those treatable diseases, but they couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So we lost 3. That was way before I was born. And at least the 9 of us were still alive. And then our other sister, that one, I was already old and actually lived with her.
Yeah.
I think I was like finishing my grade 7 when she took me in her home. So we grew up on a small farm with cows and goats, and really that's all we knew what to do. Get up in the morning, milk the cows, and walk to school for about 2-3 kilometers.
So was the farm the like how your family made money, or
Yeah.
did your parents have other jobs too?
No, my dad was a police officer.
Okay.
My mom was a stay-home mom with a bunch of kids, and so we had cows, and we would grow stuff on the farm.
Yeah.
Potatoes, corn.
Yeah.
That's how we survived.
So, I mean, it's interesting your mom's taking care of the farm and the family. Your dad's a police officer. How did that so your dad obviously was exposed. He was gone, right? So he was always gone, but he was also probably exposed to a lot of hopelessness.
Yes, a lot of hopelessness, war, a lot of killing, and really traumatizing experiences for many people in the village, because if you are in the army or as a police officer, you knew your family would never be safe, because if there is any attack that is going to happen in that community, he will probably alert some people like, you cannot stay in your homes on this day or at this time.
Yeah.
And clearly after some time they would know that there is no one else who would have told these people.
Yeah.
So we would have our lunch or supper, whatever, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we would have to run and hide.
Wow.
I mean, the war time was very bad.
So I can't imagine. Did that shape then in your family this desire to start helping some of the people in the community? Because like I'm sure during the war people were displaced. Like
a lot of people were, and of course many of them would come home because they would feel, because we have people in the police, so I mean, so it's a little bit safe.
Yeah.
But even us, we never felt safe.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I think a lot of people would come home hoping that, oh, maybe if I'm here, then I'm safe. But we would all go and hide in the bushes. Gunshots would be going over our heads, and you don't know when it's coming at you. So you're just,
Duck.
yeah, it was so scary and really traumatizing for us who were still young. And you don't know where your brothers are. You're all over the place. Like you just wherever you hide is where you stay until it's like maybe 10 in the morning, where then you start hearing people walking, until you don't know, is that like people who I should actually say hello to, or are they looking for me?
Oh, wow.
So it was a really scary time.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived like that for like a year or two before the new government took over. And but we lost a lot of people.
And I mean, I can't imagine in something like that where so the new government comes in, the war is over. There's got to be people displaced.
Yes.
And how does the community come together to help all of that?
First of all, you would leave and come back, and it's like you can't find where your house was, or like you every day you're setting up like a tent or something just to put all your kids in under some shelter for another week or so, because either it's raining or sunny, and you just have to cook for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So thank God we don't have 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
we don't have any winter.
It's
so
not winter in Saskatchewan.
no, so it's either rainy season or dry season. So if it was raining, you can sit in the rain and see what happens. And so we lived like that for some time, and it was, I tell people I don't think I would want any of my kids or anyone I know to have that kind of childhood experience. It was really scary, and we only lived on hope, like praying and asking God, just come for today, and because we don't know where our dad is.
Yeah, of
And
course.
we don't know if he's alive or not. And after maybe a month, you just see him showing up. Like, oh, hi.
There he is. So, so then was as a little girl growing up in that, was your hope to get out of Uganda? Was it the hope out of Africa? Like,
There was no hope
There was
for
no
getting
hope.
out, but only for praying for God to keep your family together and like change this situation for the better. And we didn't know how long it was going to take.
yeah,
So I don't think I had any idea when I would escape or leave Uganda, because that's all I knew.
yeah. So then so your dad's obviously working, he's out, the war ends, the new government comes in. How does your family start rebuilding? Like, do they build a home? And then is that kind of where we're gonna get, was that the start of Joy Center then? Or did it was reestablishing a place for the family, and then
Yeah,
the community?
it was reestablishing the home for the family, and even those kids who came to live with us stayed. They never left.
They never left, yeah.
And my dad always believed in sending all of us to school, at least to learn how to read or write.
Mm-hmm.
And if you finished grade 7 or 9, that was good enough, because he didn't have a lot of money to educate all of us.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, why did he say, if you can read the sign and write your name, then my job will be done? And then when you travel, you need to be able to read exit or stop.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think he was smart.
Yeah.
So we managed to go to school. Of course, the conditions were very hard,
Yeah.
because we didn't have enough food. You just have one dress, and that's it, whether it's morning, evening, Monday. So just wash it at night and put it on the next day.
Again. Wow.
And but of course, having so many kids at home, my dad had a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
She felt like God was always providing, and God really did provide for us. I don't know how. And believing that every child needs a home or a mom, because most of those kids, their families vanished.
And so was that's where I was going to say. So the families vanished, which caused this need.
Yeah.
What was it like before the war? Do you like what
Before
was
the war, everyone was in their little homes, and
so there wasn't necessarily the need to have like your mom back then wasn't housing a whole bunch of people.
No.
Yeah, okay.
she wasn't housing a whole bunch of people until those situations and conditions happened, and then somehow kids kept coming home. We were near the road. That alone was a challenge because whether people who are going, there was only one bus, and you could catch it at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
If you missed it, everyone is going to stay at my parents' house.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like I don't know, stopover for people who are coming and leaving. So, and somehow my mom accommodated whoever walked into our house. And as kids, can you imagine, you know what is in the kitchen? Well, there's no kitchen. It's just like in a corner there. And you're looking at all these people. In your mind, you're like, how are we going? So you're counting how many pieces of corn you have in that pot.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're looking at all these people like, man, okay.
So just like that's what seems crazy to me about your story, because I know a little bit about how the foundation's developed, but it really started unintentionally.
Yes.
Like your parents weren't going, hey, we should start an orphanage.
No, they couldn't even afford, and I don't think we really had an idea what an orphanage was. It's just that we could see all these young, old people coming to our house and staying. Some of them would end up looking after the cows so that they can get milk. Some would look after the farm and grow crops, and my dad would be like, if you look at the houses we built in the village, it's just putting a whole bunch of grass, and that's your house.
Yeah.
And thank God they had land, like a big chunk of land to, like when you're living on an acreage.
Yeah.
So there were small houses everywhere.
Yeah.
And we all lived there.
So just by circumstance, your family has kind of started having a village.
Yes, it was actually a village.
So then you obviously came here for a period. Was that a hope that you would never go back, or was that just life circumstances brought you to Canada with work and family?
You know what? I don't think I knew I was going to end up in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
I knew the time I would have loved to disappear from my home village had passed.
Yeah, okay.
And life was normal again. The new government came and people were we are still stable in terms of security, really, for the last 30 something years. And we could see that, okay, there's hope now. Mm-hmm. People started building nice houses, so my parents would do whatever they had to do, sell a bunch of cows and goats, and then put up a 3-bedroom house. So all the girls in one room, all the boys in one, and then a bedroom for mom and dad.
Yeah.
So we all stayed home, and of course we would be lucky that one of our cousins or uncles who is in the city would take one of us for high school or university. Yeah. So that's how my sister, who passed away, came to Kampala, which is the capital city, and she finished her education and got a job. And
then you moved in with her?
And then I moved in with her when I was probably 16 or 17 years old. And stayed with her until 1993, when her husband was sent to United States as an ambassador there. They had 4 children, including myself and my other sister. She's now in Washington, D.C. So we lived with her, and life was good.
Yeah.
Because, you can have a few pairs of jeans, shoes, things eat bread, which like in the village, you don't have bread.
You don't eat bread,
sugar. Yeah. It's a small farm.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to do whatever it takes so I can go to school and look after my sister's kids so then they can keep me here.
Yeah, then you're good.
Yeah, and that's what I did until, of course, life happened.
Yeah, of course, that's how it works. Well, that's what we're going to get to. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more stories of the Joyce Center and my guest, Maureen Torr. Welcome back. We're with my guest, Maureen Torr from Joy's Center, foundation in Uganda that's helping a lot of kids in a lot of different ways. And in the commercial break, you're telling me stories, even more stories about your childhood. And it's crazy because I grew up with family that, back in our day, we used to have to ride a horse to school and it was in snow. Well, none of them were hiding in bushes getting shot at. That is insane. So we'll kind of fast forward because I really want to start focusing on the Joy Center. So obviously grew up in Uganda. You saw a lot of misfortune, a lot of hopelessness with war, people being displaced. Now fast forward to current day. So you're in Canada and you have this family land in Uganda. Is that
Yes.
kind of what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then did you, like, how did you go, okay, well, now I need to take care of this land, and then we'll start talking a bit more about how that developed even more. But how did you end up with this land in Uganda?
So when I came to Kampala and stayed with my sister and finished high school, usually we have like a whole year of vacation time.
Yeah.
So you would get a small job or work in a restaurant or whatever just to make a living. And I remember my mom always telling us, if you make some money, even if it's $50, try and buy a piece of land. And I mean, those days you could purchase 1 acre of land for $200.
Yeah.
So I was like, why would I need land? You guys have land already. He's like, no, that's not your land. So you have to start planning for yours. I was like, okay. So in my mind, I wasn't working and thinking of shopping, or we never took vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to save some money and buy land. Buying either a piece of land or a car was a big deal. And that's what our parents knew. Because if you have land, you can't starve. If you have a cow, you can always milk your cow or sell it if you feel like.
Yeah.
So that's your investment.
Yeah.
Like here, they tell us save and put. For us, our money, we always keep it either in land or cows.
Yeah.
So I did that for some time. Just people would either move or die or whatever, and then the neighbors would come to your house and say, hey, we are sending a small piece of land. Are you people interested? And for those parents who had kids in the city and they were making some little money, they would reach out and say, hey, could you buy this land? Okay. Because in my mind, I was like, I don't need land. But anyhow, so I kept doing that. And then to the point where my sister and her husband moved to United States. Leaving me in Uganda, now I was like, okay, what do I do? Because my family is gone. I'm hoping if they get there and things work out, they will sponsor me and I join them, because they came with one of my sister. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law died after 6 months, reaching in U.S. Then my sister now had to come back to Uganda with her 4 children, but then the other sister stayed because she had started school. And so then I was like, okay, great. So now I have to help my sister take care of these kids. And we did that. I was hoping to go to university. It stopped. And so now I'm taking care of my sister and her 4 kids. She has a job. She's trying to make ends meet, but really getting depressed. Being a widow at age 36 with 4 kids, it was scary. So I'm like, okay, I don't even know what's happening now. We just have to sit here and figure out how to raise these 4 kids. But in the meantime, my mom still has all these bunch of kids at home. And somehow, because the country was stable, there is a hope, the cows are there, they really survived without asking us for money. They could take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And we would go home on like Christmas time and take a whole bunch of food. And just looking at so many kids at home, like, Mom, how do you do this? Like, you know what? These are all my kids. Like, okay. She was a believer. Like, my mom would pray. She would tell us the only hope you have is you go on your knees and pray until God answers you. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So then after a few years, she passed away. And man, it was so difficult seeing all these kids leaving home. And you're like, where are they going? And I don't think at that time I was in a position to say, you can stay, I will look after. Those few of them who stayed, we made sure that we looked after them, like combined efforts with my brothers and sisters, because at least each one of us was able to send food or clothing. Or I mean, when I say that, like, it's not like here where you need $500 to shop.
Yeah, of course.
So we would send whatever we have, and they stayed home, looked after the home, and my dad was still alive. But he would be like, I don't know if I can really manage this. It's a lot of work. And then one of my sister went back home to kind of help my dad. And we said, okay, now that you're home, you have to look after those kids so that they can go through school.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do, we'll go to different schools and help kids to go to school, but staying in different homes,
Yep.
rather than having like a whole bunch of kids at our house. And that was not easy, because then you're going and everyone is like, can you take me?
Yeah, of
I
course.
can only help a few. So then I started thinking, oh, I have this land. And at that time, I think I've probably bought like maybe 50 acres of land.
Okay.
Where I have the land, I have the kids. I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
Because to build a structure, whether it's a classroom block or dormitory, you need some money, which I honestly did not have.
Yeah.
But I'm praying
Yeah.
in the meantime and hoping and trusting God that everything is going to be okay. My mom's legacy will stay. But I also had this voice, I don't know if that's what they call a calling in my head. I'm like, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
How? I have no idea, but I'm going to trust God
Yeah.
that it will be okay.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go with what you feel is right and what you think is the direction you need to go, and it'll figure itself out.
Yes.
So you had the land, you had some kids that needed help. You started building a home. What does the facility look like today, and how many kids are there?
So what we did, before I actually reached out to people, because first of all, I didn't even know how to ask for money, because I was like, even if people say, how do we contribute, what am I going to say? I don't know. So I as I was going to university here at University of Saskatchewan, I needed to volunteer. I needed to do something in the community. And someone told me, you can actually become a Rotarian. Because I was already doing some work at church, but that was only on Sunday.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would have time during the week to do whatever. So I did. My sister introduced me to a Rotary Club. She's in Uganda as a Rotarian. I'm in Canada. And she said, you need to become a Rotarian. I think you've been a Rotarian without even knowing. Okay, what does that mean? So I became a Rotarian, and a few people from that club told me what I needed to do to get this going.
Mm-hmm.
And everything looked scary because they got staff, and I was like, okay, I have a lawyer back home. I think I can figure out this. And they gave me time to put everything together.
So now Joy Center is, you're helping with education, you're housing kids. How many kids are right now?
So we started with about 35 kids, and that was the structure we had, because even that I wasn't sure. And then we had like 100 of them showing up at the door, and I'm like, there is only room for 35. So even picking and deciding who should stay and who should go was tough. So I decided to pile all the rest at my sister's house, and that was not nice. But I said, just keep them there for a few months. She said, Maureen, I can't. I was like, come on, you can do this. So we started with about 35 kids, and then after getting all the paperwork and the legal stuff, then I came to the clubs here, did a presentation, shared my story, and they said, okay, we can support you by giving a tax receipt. People can donate through the Rotary Club of Saskatoon. And I have someone I work with, Dr. Newton. He said, okay, I have been to Africa a few times. I can help you and be your admin assistant. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And he has been like a savior because he has traveled to Uganda a few times. He has done all the paperwork. He's a retired professor, so anything to do with accounting. Of course, it's people's money. Accountability has to be there. The expectations are high, and I'm like, okay, I'm learning. So that really changed everything that my mom started as helping 1 or 10 or 15 kids in the village to 190 to 200 or more.
That started so organic, and then it became a full-on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're out of time, but you have almost 200 kids, ish.
About 250. The numbers keep
Yeah, they
changing
always change.
because during dry season people move.
Of course.
Then when things stabilize, they come. So we always have between 250, 300, 220. The numbers change depending on the season.
So
But,
that's
yeah.
a lot. So you have a lot of operation overhead to take care of. So you kind of already alluded to, I just want to make sure the viewers understand. So if they think they want to help Joy Center, they can go to the Rotarian Club in Saskatoon and they can
Yes.
donate with the credit card or however they
Or
want.
write a check.
Yeah. And if they want to contact you to see any other options,
By
they can
all
go on the
means.
website, joycenter.org.
Yes, .org or our Facebook page.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
Joy Center. Well, thank you so much for being my guest,
Thank you
Maureen.
so much,
It's such a
Evan.
crazy story to hear.
Thank
and,
you.
Always encouraging to see that even people that don't have a lot can still give quite substantially. So
My kids always say, why are they smiling? Like, the life is so difficult. I'm like, that's all they know, and they're still happy,
Yeah.
even without anything.
yeah, that's crazy.
So, but we are grateful to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for other episodes on Shaw Spotlight. And of course, the next coming episode of The Road Less Traveled. I'm your host, Evan Drisner. Stay tuned for more.